All right, guys, it is time to put back together my 2,500 horsepower engine. This engine is the main engine for our UCC truck, the Godfather. And the last time this particular engine was in operation was actually at UCC last year. On the sled pull, it ejected some delivery valve holders out of the pump. And so we got back, we took the engine out, we wanted to look through it, just check out the bearings, see how the thing held up to the big power. And so we did that, and then it sat for months and months and months as we used the backup engine to do some testing and some fun stuff. So all those dynos you've seen recently have been on the backup engine, not the main engine. And the backup engine finally came out once we cracked that head. If you remember that dyno we did, and it went all white, and we got a bunch of smoke, and the head was cracked. Power's coming on, it's being real nice, and all of a sudden, real loud, tons of smoke, nasty sounds. Trying to figure out what's going on. And anyway, the head cracked.
That's a real kick in the knackers, bro.
Just a real ouchie, bro.
So that engine came out, and now it's time to put this big engine back in, and I wanted to go to an event called the Gauntlet Challenge. This is a dyno event in Denver. They have it every year. I've always wanted to go to it, but usually we're too busy, or we got snow over the mountains because it's pretty early in the year, 1st of March, and so I've never been able to make it, but I wanted to put this engine together this year and try to get there. So we have a big, massive head for this engine that I'm not using yet. It's a solid warhead, massive flow, and it's not quite ready for the engine yet. So I was going to put the engine together with just a stock warhead that I simply put a big valves in, and I just custom blended the bowls a little bit to accommodate the valve job. So we put some big valves in, and I spent an evening here porting the head. I actually didn't port the head, the runner. The runner's intake and out and the exhaust, I didn't touch them. Okay, full disclosure, I did touch the number 1 intake port because the inlet is smaller. So I opened that up, but that's it. I didn't do anything down the runners, down the throat, just the valves and the bowl area. I opened those up, and that really opened it up quite a bit. And other than that, the head is a stock warhead. So once I had the bowl work all done on the cylinder head, it's time to get the bottom end ready to go together. So that's the crankshaft, the block, the pistons, rods, bearings, all that good stuff. On this particular engine, this is the first time on a level engine this high, I've actually reused the bearings. With the new 8.3 oil pump, our new monster oil filter, high pressure, the bearings look great. So I put them back in. I've never done that before, but everything worked so well. I'm like, dude, this is magic, it's going back in. So on this build, we're using the Wagler rods. We used Corilla and Wagler in the past, had a great luck with both. This particular engine has the Wagler rods with the 1/2-inch bolts, so if I go way high RPM again, hopefully it can survive and not come apart, the rod bolts like in years past. The pistons are the same pistons you ran. They're diamond pistons. They're a forged anodized piston. I really like it. We got some custom Total Seal rings we actually had custom made for these pistons, and I really, really like this ring set. It's worked really well. So we got the block cleaned up. We ran a little dingleberry hone through it, just kind of clean up the bores. And that's all the machining we did to the block because it was still great from our last machining. So we just dingleberried the block, break off that glaze, get a fresh finish for the rings to bite into, and clean it up and put it together. Got the pistons in, oil squirter jets, all that stuff, and it just went together really, really smooth. I've been in your waters. So in years past, we've had a real hard time blowing up camshafts, blowing up cam gears. We made a whole cover to support the cam nose, and all these things worked well, but the real fix is a straight cut gear. We have to get rid of that helical thrust on that cam to make this engine live without issues. So we finally bit the bullet, got a set of straight cut gears. So with the straight cut gears, that presents a whole host of new problems. For one, nothing in your crankcase is straight cut. So we had to get a cam gear, we had to get a P-pump gear, and those are pretty expensive pieces. But so that works nice, that's a whole set, but you still have to drive your oil pump, and that's a helical cut gear. So we had to put some actual common rail gears on our oil pump. We use our 8.3 liter oil pumps. We have a lot more flow, a lot more pressure. Really help keep these bearings alive. I think that in conjunction with our monster oil filter, that setup from No Limit Fabrication, I really like that a lot. I think that oil pressure in that filter really kept our main bearings just happy, best we've ever had. And so that was pretty easy. The real problem, the real trick was how do we get power steering? So my power steering pump is run off the crank or the cam gear, and I also have that drive my Waterman lift pump. And so I gotta have something there work, and obviously the normal gear is the helical drive. So we had to figure out a way to get a straight cut gear on there, and we didn't even know where a straight cut gear would be. Like, what the heck are we gonna use? So we started just looking around, and we just randomly pulled out a Cp3 Pump Gear. This is a common rail Cp3 Pump Gear, and it's a straight cut. Okay, can we make that work? So we started putting it against the power steering gear, and it's like a dead copy. It's the exact same size, same tooth count. It should work awesome. And so the problem is the hub is totally different design, way too deep of a hub. It's not going to fit in the case. So we got to figure out how to machine this thing down and attach it to the actual power steering pump gear or pump shaft. So I tasked that job to Will. Will's our little lathe wizard over there. He likes playing with that stuff. And so he went over there and he figured out a way he cut out the center of it, made a bushing that I had to weld into the hub, to the gear itself. And once we got that thing welded, it went on the shaft beautifully, and it fits perfect. We didn't have to modify the case or anything. Literally, we slid it in, it meshed perfectly with the gear, and it was awesome. We actually did have to cut the teeth were a little too tall. I should go back. The teeth were a touch too tall. So we just kind of knocked the tops off of the teeth a little bit, and then no problems. It worked great. It drove the Waterman pump, problem solved, power steering, lift pump in action, and it's gonna be great. So once that's in, we put the head on, put on their Smt Valve Train. This valve train is the best valve train I've seen ever for a Cummins. It's pretty commonly used in the top level of pulling world. It's very expensive, and it will not fit in your stock truck. This is a competition part only. You will not fit under your cowl. You will not be able to adjust your last. You will not be able to put or take off the valve cover in a stock truck. This is a competition piece only. It would work fine on the street. You just can't maintain it on the street or even install it. So bad for that, great for competition. So I've actually cut out my entire cowl of my truck to make room for this thing, and it's awesome. So once we get it in, we want to make sure our camshaft is right and the clearances are good. So we get a dial indicator out here, and I have Will and Meyer come help me out, and we're measuring how much clearance is between the cam and the piston at different points in the piston's travel. Very important to make sure if you have a big cam that you're not going to slam your valves into your piston. So make sure that you got enough clearance there. And then we just were having some fun. We kind of measured how much open lift there was, duration. We measured intake center line. And we did all this with our little degree wheel on the dampener, so it's pretty simple. I think I actually got some video of that, so hopefully you're seeing that in the video here. And yeah, so we got the top end together. The cam was great, lashed in great. At this point, it's all ready to get the old engine parts on it and start dressing this bad boy. So the engine gets dressed up, and now it's time to put it in there, put on the turbos. These turbos haven't been on for a couple months since we cracked that last head, and get it started and do a fresh retorque. So that's where we're at on this build. The engine is started, retorqued. Now it's time to get this in the dyno and see what it does. And if it works out well, we're going to go to Denver and compete in the Gauntlet Challenge. So. anyway, it's an exciting event. I hope we can get there. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this build. If it's interesting to you, if you're here still, hit that thumbs up button. It helps us out. Hit that like button. And yeah, make sure to check out our next episode if we go to Denver and compete in the Gauntlet Challenge. Thanks, guys.